So, sort of start of the race last time out, wasn't it? 90 kilometres away over in Suzuka. But in the end, Adam, it did get a little bit spicy.
It did indeed. Unfortunately, I was away for the first race in Suzuka, but I'm back for round number two. An absolutely superb race. I think plenty of action we're about to see. So, of course, a fictional circuit in the Gran Turismo calendar, in the Asphalt Kings calendar, we have. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of action, and it's going to be one of those circuits that is going to be a real eye opener, especially once you load it up, go into qualifying. I believe for a lot of our drivers, they're really going to have to get their heads down the minute they head out onto the circuit.
Turn circuit, this particular one as well. Of course, that half a mile stretch heading towards turn one should offer a good opportunity for a nice toe going through into turn one. But of course, the mini apexes really through turns 2 to 5 may also offer a few little mistakes. We did see that last time out actually with none other than Ayrton Birmingham, the defending champion, making a mistake at Spoon in similar circumstances. So that could be one to watch going through into turn one. But there it is, less than 5 kilometres this particular circuit. With those 15 turns. Expected quali lap time in the 1:33s, though very much dependent on the type of car that the drivers are going to field tonight.
Indeed, the way this is going to really work, I think that a lot of our drivers are going to have to really just press on during qualifying. I think that's where a lot of the time can be made up, but usually it's the racing where you want to provide the best. But I think what the qualifying session will give us a great insight into what we're looking forward into tonight's race. You see there, almost 5 kilometers in length. It's a lengthy circuit. You're talking almost Baku levels of length. So this isn't a short circuit by any means. Guys are very much going to be having to really press on. Really looking forward to seeing what we kind of get into once we load into that qualifying session. And I don't know about you, James, but I think there's going to be a few potential surprises in the back pockets of everyone here.
Yeah, certainly, because it's one of those sort of longer circuits. And of course, being a fictional circuit, many people may not be particularly familiar with Kyoto, unlike Suzuka. Last time out, we ended up doing pretty well, didn't we? And it ended up becoming quite an intense set of events because the drivers really set themselves out in the motion last time out last week. And hopefully we'll get a quick view of the results, actually, because the results, there it is. Denzel Agius absolutely set out in motion in the Lexus, because that GT3 2017 RCF turned out to be really the choice car to be. He really set himself out, got the pole, and then set out and ended up winning it. But in the end, Jonathan Spiteri was able to keep within touching distance, and Ayrton Birmingham, he was very lucky in the end to get P3, because in that all of that fiasco that occurred, a man that ended up looking like he was going to struggle his way to potentially a P6 finish, still managed to finish on the podium and still keeps his chances of a potential championship win, a double championship win, alive.
Indeed, Ayrton really coming in here with a big hope of defending that crown. John Paul Vella finished home in second ahead of Malia and Christian Samet. He's usually a good driver in this, but not quite there in Suzuka. Then we find Misford followed by Clint Orland down there in P8, and then Oscar Schwereb, Terry Kassar, and Grimard to round off our 12 car, well, I think it was actually a 13 car entry we had in that first race at Suzuka. So drivers will once again be able to reset their heads. Of course, the Japanese circuits are very interesting. No matter if it's fictional, if it's real, they'll always give some fantastic racing and fantastic circuits. Standings, of course, Denzel Agius does lead the standings ahead of Jonathan Spiteri, with Ayrton Birmingham in P3, and you can already see so on and so on and so on. It's just all the way down to the top 15 that you're seeing at this moment in time. So we'll have to really see how this all pans out. James, this calendar, it's going to be an absolute class calendar. Plenty of absolutely historical circuits and a few fictionals to throw into the mix.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, we're at Kyoto this time around in the Yamagiwa sort of side of it. But then if you take a look at the Circuit du Sport Francorchamps, it's another one of those longer circuits where we're expecting the longer straights to become a specific sort of regime of driving. You've really got to work with the cars, work with the other drivers, because any mistake and you will be punished pretty severely, especially at the next two rounds. Of course, this one and in Spa. We are going to be taking a very quick break before we get on for the more intense racing. Everyone is just finishing up their practice sessions, and of course we will have that 15-minute qualifying session coming up. Don't go away. Well, then, we are just a few short moments away from what I'm sure will be a very, very intense qualifying ahead of us. But a quick reminder, of course, if you are just trying to get in the loop with what effectively this tournament brings, of course, we've got that 15-minute qualifying session. We're going to follow up then with that 50-minute race straight afterwards. And of course, there is that one mandatory pit stop. That one mandatory pit stop, pretty critical, of course, because out there, we saw it last time out in Suzuka, people ended up making those mistakes, and they were fairly critical mistakes as well, Adam. What ended up happening, people picking the wrong tyre at the wrong time, and we saw people falling off a cliff as a result.
Indeed, strategy is really going to come into this circuit. There's a lot of long left-handers. You have this massive straight down the south end of the circuit into one of the slowest corners on the circuit. You know, there's so much to keep an eye out here, and you're going to have to keep an eye on strategy. You're going to have to keep an eye on your fuel, your tires, and then we'll also have to be a little bit of nursing. We've got a long race ahead of us. There's going to be plenty of opportunity, but it's how do these drivers kind of approach a race like this, where it's going to be very demanding, very, very tough on the tires, on the fuel, on the drivers themselves. Going to have to do a lot of managing heading into this race, and I'm sure we're going to be heading into that qualifying session very, very soon. 12 cars will take to the Kyoto driving park in Japan out for this 15-minute qualifying session. They start their exploratory lap, but they'll go straight in for their flyer. Christian Sammet, the Mercedes AMG, is the first driver out there to explore the Japanese lands. We'll have to see how each driver can really feel the circuits and get to grips with it, especially knowing how quickly they have to do it.
As the race is starting to develop as well, I think I'm starting to face some internet, rather my computer issues actually at the moment, so apologies if I do seem a little laggy, but nonetheless, Chris Sammet is a man that is a bit of on a mission at the moment as well as the man just tucked in behind him as well, actually, because they do fly around this particular circuit, and considering its length, you know, the wideness of the circuit isn't particularly strong, and as a result it does become a little bit of a one to watch, because of course if you end up making that one mistake with so little space around the circuit, that could pose a little bit of a threat. This particular corner, quite familiar with that one if you're familiar with the Hungaro ring. I think a little bit wider perhaps than the penultimate corner going through there, and then of course coming through this right-hander, then the left-hander could pose some overtaking opportunities if you're a little bit braver on the brakes versus everyone else. There's a man I'm keeping an eye out in P3, by the way, Denzel Agius, a man who is looking to try and get back-to-back victories and put himself within touching distance already of the title. Not many races in this championship, as the lap times will now begin.
Indeed, and now we'll have to get to see who is really on the momentum to get in toward that first long left-hander for the Mercedes of Chris Sammet, just trying to really rotate the car. You're waiting, and then you can get on the throttle, powering through this sweeping section. It is unbelievable.
Yes, so keeping an eye on Chris Sammet, then chucking the car through the right-hander. So here we are then going down this back straight here. Of course, this will lead into that big left-hander of turn 6. You'll want to try and hit the brakes a little bit as late as you can and try and take as much of the apex. In fact, he probably broke a little bit too early, did Chris Sammet on this occasion. He's ended up clipping onto the grass ever so slightly. Downhill then towards turn 7, and then you want to chuck the car through this very quick, very clumsy set of corners this year, through 8, through 9, and then through 10. You'll get a bucket of understeer if you get that one wrong, but Chris seems to have nailed it just about right, to be fair. Going through the right-hander and then through this little mini hairpin of turn number 12. You'll want to try and plant this, the power down as early as you can as you enter into the fourth sector, where you'll be met with turns 13, 14, and then the final hairpin of 15. So here's 13. Keep the power down, don't need to lift until about now, then chuck the car through the left-hander of 14, then going through towards the hairpin of 15, where we'll start to see the first lap times come in. Remember, 15 minutes of qualifying here, so not that much time to set a lap time. If you get it wrong early on and don't set an early, at least conservative lap time, you're putting yourself under early pressure. That's where you'll end up serving a lift-off penalty if you end up committing any atrocities. But coming across the line, Chris, 1:33, 1:99. Will other people beat him? Well, Denzel Agius hasn't. He's actually a quarter of a second down. Sure if we've lost Adam by the looks of things, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get him back in just a few short moments. But Jonathan Spiteri around about a tenth up on the rest of the field at the moment. In fact, he's about a tenth up at Denzel Agius, sorry, on Spiteri, but Spiteri setting the fastest sector 2 of anyone so far, but cutting that corner completely, going through turn 9. It's going to pose a little bit of a challenge for the McLaren Asphalt King, looking to obviously try and potentially get himself a title after battling really hard with Ayrton Birmingham last time out. But nonetheless, it's going to be critical that the drivers are there. We've just got confirmation from Adam Reed. He's had a bit of a huge cut-off, bit of an issue for Adam, so fingers crossed we'll get him back in just a few short moments. But in the meantime, well, let's go on board with this man here. So you may notice JP Treble 05 is John Paul Vella. A cracking P4 last time out in Suzuka, so where can the McLaren put himself on this occasion? Well, it's P4 at the moment in qualifying, but plenty of time to go, just a bit over rather, 10 minutes left in this qualifying session as the driver now approaching the start finishing line. We'll see if there is an improvement for JP as he comes across the line now, and he doesn't improve his position, stays in P5. Here's JDM Addix then. Now Addix is to Birmingham, so this is the world champion from last time out, so the current Asphalt King, if you will. He is a man on a mission. He didn't have a very good Suzuka Grand Prix, did he? So he's going to be wanting to try and bounce back from that one, and hopefully setting his personal best first sector so far, not getting blocked too badly by the Porsche 911 of Dave Potts. Another man actually very unlucky not to be on the podium, but unfortunately not putting enough fuel in on his pit stop, and it cost him the chance of getting in. Unfortunately, it looks like he has lost about a tenth in the second sector, has the current defending champion. Keep an eye out though on Dave Potts, because he could be one, not known for his qualifying so far, but certainly one for his race pace. He could be a bit of a dark horse in this particular race, because his race pace is definitely up there. It's just a matter of making sure he puts the right amount of fuel in it. It's as simple as that, really. He's approaching now the final corner, and what is a slow down lap, I think, for the 911. He's just coming across, pardon me, he's nowhere near the final corner. Now he's approaching the final corner of turn number 15, tucked in behind the current defending world champion Ayrton Birmingham. We've got other pit stops coming in. Will Birmingham dive into the pit lane, or will he continue, I wonder? Pit lane just to the left hand side, Dave Potts immediately entering in, but other people choosing not to. Denzel Agius, for one, electing not to come into the pits. Actually, it'll be interesting to see where the P2 man currently is at the moment. He is at the moment going through the complex of corners at turns 2 through 5, as we're just keeping an eye out on Denzel Agius coming through towards the hairpin. So it looks like we've got issues trying to get back into the lobby in this session, rather, in the commentary box. He'll be back with us in just a few short moments, no doubt. Denzel out. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do this time out. Is he going to be under any pressure? It looks like he is on an in-lap, then in the end is the race winner from last time out. And of course, the previous Asphalt King himself won it, not the last championship, but the season before. So it's about to try and take his crown right back out of the hands of the current champion Birmingham, currently in P5 at the moment. P7, Clint Orland as well. He's not having the best time of it at the moment, but definitely in the midfield, looking to keep that pressure on. He's looking to try and make as much headway as he can, so he'll be one to watch as well. Denzel Agius then will be coming into the pits at the end of this lap, no doubt, so I'll be interested to see who the first person to set a lap will be, actually. If my math works it out right, I do believe it would be potentially Jonathan Spiteri on Chris Samet, so we'll see when the commentator, or rather when the director switches over potentially to Chris Samet or Jonathan Spiteri. We'll see. Chris Samet, yes, he is at the front, so he'll be the first person to set a lap on this second stint of laps, and he'll be just coming across the start finishing line. Just behind him, the Malta is Malta, Spiteri in the McLaren. Here he comes then, so not going to get interrupted too badly, hopefully, by Denzel Agius, who's just left the pit lane, and chucking the car through the inside to take the outside line from the McLaren, as we hopefully go on board actually with the McLaren, because I hope he's not going to get interrupted by Denzel actually, because Denzel should be getting out of the way here. Can we get on board with Chris Samet actually? Be nice if we can. Oh, lovely, look at that one. Director on fire. Chucking the car, then he is unfortunately 4/10 down, so I think this might be an abandoned lap on this occasion. Was he potentially impeded, I wonder, by Denzel Agius? If that was the case, that would be bitterly disappointing, because it wouldn't just be Chris Samet, in fact, it would also actually be the car behind him of Jonathan Spiteri. We'll see what his second sector split's like. He's not really found much more time through there either. Through the left-hander, again, clumsy corners through here, but not very well taken. So from this occasion, Chris Samet, I think he's just on the cool-down lap on this occasion. Not looking like he's going to be improving on this occasion. Sector 3 split coming up at the end of this hairpin. Car through the left-hander. Better taken compared to his last fastest lap, to be fair. Willing to take a bit more curve on that one. But unfortunately now he's second down here, so I think there'll be another warm lap. I'll have to consider this another warm lap potentially before getting going on this occasion. Fastest lap, of course, at 1:33.199. This is fastest lap, and it's the fastest lap of anyone so far. Denzel Agius will be coming across the line. In fact, let's go on board with Denzel Agius as well, because he's just started his lap now, and there it is. So here he goes, chucking the car through the left-hander. Then not going to go too aggressively through here, as we've got a new fastest lap, and it's come, would you believe, from the championship leader, championship winner from last time out, sorry, Ayrton Birmingham, has now beaten Chris Samet's lap time. He will be going on pole 1:33.039, so just a small margin, but beaten immediately by Denzel Agius in the first sector. Chuck the car through the left-hander. Don't get on the grass too much, you'll lose time. It's willing to take a bit of curve, take as much curve on the outside as you dare. So much, a little bit of time on the car, potentially for Denzel Agius. Down the hill, second sector split. It's his personal best, but not the fastest in the second sector. Chuck the car through the clumsy corners, left, right, then left again. You can see there's a big spin, and very well held to avoid the tank slapper from Denzel Agius, and that will be his lap done and dusted. Sector 3 split will come at the end of this hairpin, but very well managed actually from Denzel Agius to not even crash out of that particular event. But you'll see, there it is, all that time he's gained is now lost. So he'll have another go on this one. Let's go back on board with Chris Samet then, because Chris Samet was on a lap previously. Will he be improving, and will he be chucking his car through into the pit lane, I wonder? Turn 15 coming up, chuck the car through the right-hander, and he'll get a nice tow actually from the man just in front of him. Denzel Agius, no improvement from him, but into the pits for Chris Samet, no surprises on that one. Jonathan Spiteri, where is he at the moment as well actually? He's just coming through turn number 15, but I don't think this is going to be an improvement either. I think we'll see though, chucking the car through the right-hander, a lot of curve taken, surely into the pit lane. No, not taking it into, he is going all the way to the line. We'll see what his lap time is. It'll be 1:33.0 to beat. He does improve on his lap time in the end, just over a quarter of a second up. Puts himself into P3 and actually closing down the gap on Chris Samet. Gap now just under 1/10 of a second. Clint Orland has put himself P4 as well. Good effort from the Maltese man. I believe racing in the 911 Shell livery car. Absolutely gorgeous looking thing, that one, isn't it? To say the least. We're still waiting on Adam Reed, by the way, folks. If you're wondering why I'm still waffling away, eventually he'll, sure, no doubt, get back into this lobby. But I tell you one thing that I'm keeping a very firm eye on this one, as well as or not improving on this occasion. Daniel King as well. So Daniel King, that's his real name actually, is Daniel Malia. He's also in the touching distance of this one as well. That familiar GTR livery Pennzoil, as it's going to be one to watch, I think, in here tonight, because he was also within touching distance as well of potentially getting on the podium after all of that mix-up at Suzuka. As we do have Adam Reed finally back with us after a little bit of an internet connection reset. My friend, nothing so much you've not missed too far here, Adam, but I'll give you a quick roundup of what's happening. So as it stands so far, the championship winner last time out has managed to beat Chris Sammet on the second set of qualifying lap times by just over a tenth of a second, 1:33.0, but no improvements across the board from the usual suspects, but the midfielders certainly getting in touching distance here. They've got Joel Falzon Barno as well. They're up into P3, Jonathan Spiteri P4, Clint Orland now in P5.
Yeah, good stuff there for a lot of the drivers there. They continue to really work their way around this circuit. You know, you're in the latter stages of this session here, and it looks like Ayrton Birmingham, who's come out with flying colours here, looking to try and take an overall best, but he's not being able to get the lap times in at the moment. Chris Sammet in second, and shockingly Dent, our pole sitter from Suzuka, all the way down in 7. Now the thing with Dent here, he is not the best in terms of qualifying. He is always fantastic in the race. He's always able, seemingly, to drag that Lexus into places where you never thought it would be at the start of the race, but then he just ends up there at something like a podium if the car is really working underneath him. So we'll have to really see how this turns out for the race, but seeing that as he goes up the hill, he's really trying to push the limits as he heads around that right hand side of the circuit, really just trying to see if he can push the limits at all. It does seem like at this moment in time really all he can do is best lap time so far. I won 33.449, which is set very early on in the session. Just hasn't been able to match it. I think just a couple of mistakes there from Denzel Adgis has halted his opportunities, and he's been able to carry it forward. Meanwhile, let's have a look around as the circuit. And here is Joru, who is currently on a decent lap so far. He put himself onto the second row of the grid.
Yeah, he's not done a bad effort, to be fair, as Joel Falzon Barno, but this will be the last set of laps, by the way, folks. We're just about to eclipse over to 15 minutes right now. Checker flag is now out. Chris Sammet just managing to get across the line to start his lap, but other people just behind will be either on their lap or have missed out. So be interested to see where Chris Sammet can put himself, because he's now managed to beat Addicts on this particular occasion. That's Birmingham by just over a tenth to put himself back on pole. Now, I'll be interested to see where Denzel Adgis can put himself, though, because remember, he got pole last time out in Suzuka, not known for his qualifying performance, but still able to get pole at Suzuka. So the question is where is he going to be in terms of the final lap times when it comes to it? Well, 19 thousandths of a second down on his personal best in the second sector. Not likely to be the best way to do it. Taking a lot of curve, though, going through turn 9. Then he's approaching this lazy right-hander uphill of turn 11. Then the hairpin of turn 12. Brake as late as you dare and chuck that car into the apex. You want to try and not use any of that curve, but try and get as close to it as you can. Take as much of that curve as you dare on the outside, and that's where Chris Sammet definitely didn't do. And now he's set a personal best third sector here for Denzel Adgis. Now he'll mount this curve. He's hopped over the curve, going through turn number 14 and then turn 15. Where is he going to put himself? No purple sectors here from Denzel Adgis. This is the race winner from the last time out in Suzuka and the pole sitter. Will he be able to get anywhere near Chris Sammet, or will he be beaten? Here he comes then, right across the line, 1:32.9 beat. Not anywhere near. It is a 5th place and well, actually not a respectable position, because it will be the 3rd row of the grid alongside Jonathan Spiteri on this particular occasion, and all the other lap times will be done and dusted as far as I'm aware. So it will be pole position for Chris Sammet tonight, and he'll be alongside the championship winner of last season, Ayrton Birmingham, who looks to bounce back after a pretty poor performance in Suzuka. That is it on that occasion for qualifying then. We'll be going through to the race in just a few short moments, but let's take a quick look at those final results in qualifying. And it is pole position by just under 0.08 of a second for Chris Sammet to the championship winner from last time out, Ayrton Birmingham. Then a little bit of a mixed bag. The midfielders have managed to step up a little bit here. Joel Falzon de Bono gets P3. Then you've got John Paul Vella in P4, rounding up with Denzel Agius top 5 for him. So, a little bit of a mixed bag out there at the moment, and that could pose a little bit of a threat for the usual suspects tonight here, I think, Adam.
I do think so as well. This still seems like a pretty mixed up grid, I'd say. There's not. There's still some drivers there a little bit out of place. There's some drivers that have made some really good laps out there. But for those guys, they're really good to kind of continue to really push on. I do think that we'll be seeing a lot of, as I say, maintaining during the race. So just be careful on tyres, be careful on fuel, because that was at everyone there at absolute maximum push, which we won't be seeing in those races. They'll probably be dropping about half a second every single time they go for a lap, maybe even a second and a half if it starts to get pretty critical. So beware of moments like that. And I think we're in for an absolute fantastic night of racing.
Should be a good one, this one. I think the Asphalt Kings usually brings a really intense affair. 50 minutes of racing just ahead of us. Of course, this is the Asphalt Kings tournament. It's brought to you by Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy Brand Garage, Level Academy and The Specialist. We should be in for an absolute cracker in just a few short moments. We're going to take a very quick break before we get into the race. So just keep your tabs on what will be no doubt a very intense race here in Kyoto. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a few short moments. So, a few short moments away from this 50-minute race. Of course, it's a rolling start straight towards the start finishing line, and then they will be away. Be interested to know what we're going to do as regards to strategy, though, because of course Kyoto is one of those faster circuits where if you're on the softer tyre you will benefit, but it will burn out pretty quickly. And one thing's for certain, you've got to get your fuel setting right, and that is one thing that I'm sure some of the drivers will be considering. Nonetheless, some of the midfield drivers who were on for a podium last time out, they've got to take their learnings into this one though, Adam, because this race is a lot harder to get right.
I think you're best in this situation to play it safe rather than sorry. Maximize your fuel, see how much it burns, and of course take maybe the middle compound tire before then taking it onto the hardest set. There's plenty of ways you can play this race. I do think it will be the usual one-stop strategy. I think 2 is possible. You're gonna have to go for a very, very calculated and risky strategy. It'll be really, really intriguing to see how this all pans out. We're going to take a couple minutes before we get into the race, which allows myself and James to just have a discussion about how this is going to potentially pan out. You've got some great drivers in there. I think Ayrton Birmingham will be really relishing of what happened last time at Suzuka. He'll want to be pushing on for the race where he's done it before in the Asphalt Kings Championship, so he knows what winning is looking like as well. Also, Denzel Agius coming from that 5th place spot. His race, his race pace is going to be absolutely fantastic. I feel you just need to get the car underneath him, and sometimes 15 minutes for us doesn't really give us the best idea.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because the bottom line is they've all got to sort of adapt quite quickly, especially those that raced last time out. They had a circuit which was sort of tightly compacted and you only had specific overtaking zones. This one's a bit different. You've got opportunities surrounding around the circuit, which is going to offer the best opportunities, but strategy is going to be important. Nonetheless, you've got to keep an eye out on fuel, which is a thing that Dave Potts no doubt will be taking in his stride after what was almost certainly a podium position on the cards, and then by 1:30R it was all gone. No fuel left in his car. Let's take a quick look at the track map actually, because the track map is going to be the main center point of this one, because you've got that little graphic there just in the middle surrounding the track, and that's where you're going to be talking about overtaking, because the long sweeping second sector is pretty much going to be where all the setups are going to occur. 8, 9, and 10. If you get that wrong, you'll end up going through the grass, or you'll be mounting the curb and bottoming out and losing speed throughout those corners. And that will cost you going all the way through 11 and then into the first hairpin in the bottom right hand side, turn 12. If you get that wrong, you'll cost all the time going through turn 13 and 14 before you get to turn 15. So Sector 3, Sector 4 is where we're expecting some of the intense racing to occur, but don't, of course, forget Sector 1, where we've got that long sweeping left-hander, which actually I described as quite Hungaroring-like. But if you remember the old Malaysian circuit, that's for the sort of vibe I'm getting for that particular corner. So that could be one to watch, and especially turns 2 through 5, that's sweeping right hand corners. To get that wrong, you'll lose a bucket of time all the way through sector 2, which again, remember, you've got sector 3 and 4 where you'll end up costing and losing time. So it's a tricky circuit, this one.
Indeed, it is, and I think a lot of our drivers are going to be aware of that. They're really going to keep an eye on everything. To say, I think the biggest thing going into this race, I'll say it once and I'll say it 100 times if I have to, is managing that car. Overall, I do think it is very much like where one moment of momentum loss and you're losing it through so many sectors. You just saw in that track, man, there's plenty of places that that you can lose that car and do that momentum, and it'll be so tough to gain it back, especially with everyone in close proximity.
And that's not to say as well that this race is going to be difficult, because of course we have all those other races ahead of us as well. And especially when we take a look at next week's race, when we actually visit the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, that particular race is also going to be particularly critical, because again, it's very long track, it's long, it's sweeping, it's very unforgiving if you make a mistake. So the next 2 rounds could actually be the make or breaker for a lot of these drivers, because of course if they end up dropping so many points, that could pose as a certain threat. Because when we head over to the graphic for in relation to the points that you get, hopefully if we have one, it's going to be such a problem to get that time back and get those points back if you end up making a mistake, especially if you're at the top of the standings, because 26 points for the race victory, and then going down 5 points lost if you finish in second, another 5 if you finish in third, so 26, 21, 17, 14, 12, and then 10 for the top 6, all the way down to that one singular point for finishing in 12th. That could pose to be a bit of a problem if you end up making a mistake in these first 2 rounds, because the amount of time you're going to get back at the end of it is not very long, because of course you've only got Circuit de Saint-Croix on the 7th of August, then you've got the little break before we go to the Red Bull Ring, then we go to Switzerland, then we're at the Nürburgring, and then we finish off at Daytona. So not a lot of time if you make a mistake, Adam.
No, you're right on that one. We will be going to our 5-circuit European leg. That is going to be one of the most critical legs of the championship. You, of course, go and doing 2 races in Asia and then 5 into Europe. I think Spa, genuinely, Spa and St. Croix can really be the defining moments in this title decider, because you're going into a very long circuit. I see, very unforgiving, with plenty of overtaking opportunities, and once you find yourself in a really good spot around the Belgian circuit, you'll throw that momentum into St. Croix, the French circuit, which is completely foreign to pretty much everyone. It's a fancy circuit. There's you've not really got any real life drivers around there, races around there, my apologies. But I think those two are going to be serious moments where the championship really turns on its head, and then we've got 4 races. But from what I'm hearing in our little chat we've got going on, the race is set, the grid is set, and we can go racing very soon. We'll bring you back very soon, back to the Kyoto driving park, and we'll move on into our race. And my word, we are in for an absolute thriller. I believe a custom grid as well. I think this is a warm-up, I believe, as well.
Yeah, they're skipping along. They're skipping along here, Adam, by the looks of things, and we're just about to get going. So the drivers are now getting themselves ready. Now, it looks like to me, actually, that we're going to have to commit to another reset here, because that grid's not right, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm aware, Owen Cassar did not get pole on this one, so I wonder if there is going to be another reset here, as if the directors can let me know. What I think it is for certain. No, in fact, there he is. So he's not P1, so it looks like it may be a little bit of a graphical issue. Nonetheless, we are about to get going, and the race has now begun. There is no more waiting, so let's go racing. Chris Samut will be leading through into turn 1. Looks like it is a game issue, and the graphics are suggesting that Cassar is in the lead. He is not. It is Chris Samut leading, and it will be Addicts leading the way in second place, looking to try and close down the gap. There is the position, so it looks like actually we're losing drivers, and it looks like we are going to be committing to a restart here, because we've now lost another 4, maybe 5 drivers. If the director can keep us up to date with what's going on, I think there may be just another reset about to happen.
Indeed, we have lost half of the grid, and there you can see there from Jonathan Spiteri. We're going into a lobby reset. So that seems to be another bug issue. So I do apologies to the audience. You know, you can't get everything in esports racing. It's not like a real life where you know you get to see all the action and you get to see people. We get to throw microphones in people's faces and you know, just work from there. This is having to cast back to a little room between two people. I've just realised both our backgrounds are very similar. Let me just reiterate: we are not in the same room. We're in completely different areas. We just
different areas of the country
have
as well, Adam, as well. So I don't think we're anywhere. It just so happens that we've managed to match our backgrounds perfectly to the branding for the Asphalt Kings as well on this one. That's for certain. Actually, gives us an opportunity not to talk about the perfectness of our backgrounds, to talk about the perfect race from last weekend out at Suzuka with Denzel Agius, because Denzel Agius obviously performed really well last time out, and hopefully we'll get the graphic up in a second. He ended up performing super well in the end, and uncharacteristically managed to do super well with pole position in the end, because he is not known for his qualifying performances, but one hell of a performance in qualifying to lead the way and basically dominated the entire race. Never really any kind of pressure. A little bit of pressure maybe actually from Jonathan Spiteri early on, but in the end Denzel absolutely romped home, and in the end the man who managed to get the crown not last time out but the time before, setting his sights on regaining the crown that he lost. That's for certain.
Indeed, that race is of course being put in the past. This is kind of a base for I'd say everyone. Interlagers and Johnson Spiteri. We know how fast they are in Birmingham. This is kind of just a base setter for a lot of our drivers. You know, you can come back from that. I believe we did have one retirement from Joseph Parge. It doesn't mean that he's you know, it doesn't mean that he might not really a driver who would usually contend for a championship, but you know, people can get off to the best start, they can get off to the first start. It really just depends on the pace and how they go throughout the season. You have to really chain a season together to be able to claim a championship. And even then, some of our challenges, I've seen championships being won where they have less wins than the guys in second and third place overall. And I really do think that it's just about stringing that championship together, keeping the consistency up. And Suzuka was a great base. Keeping in Japan, we're going to be seeing some really important stuff. So I think there's definitely going to be a couple of highlights to keep an eye on out for as we go through this race. James,
Yeah, well,
we're in for a great race. We're in for a great one.
We should be in for a good race, to be fair, and I'm expecting that we should be in for an absolute cracker. We are going to have to head over to a break in just a few short moments, because we are going to be heading into the race in just a few minutes' time, whereas we've got the lobby being reset. Looks like everything's going to be all good. So we're going to go to another ad break, and then we'll be back for, hopefully, for what will be a very intense race. So don't go away. We're back in just a few short moments. Let's get going then. We're just a few short moments away for what will be no doubt a really intense race. Looks like everyone is now ready and raring to go as we've just got it, getting everyone ready, and we will be in for an absolute cracker here in the Kyoto circuit. We should be in for an absolute blinder nonetheless. Let me know if you are watching who your favourite is for this particular victory tonight. I am expecting Christian Sammet to be up there here tonight. Remember, the man on pole for this particular race, ahead, of course, of a man that is making himself a legend in Ayrton Birmingham, and the drivers will make their way across towards the start finishing line, and they will get straight on with what will be a very intense race ahead of us. No laps to be made of. It was just a 50-minute straight race as they make their way towards the start finishing line. This race is about to get going with the Mercedes leading the way and the start finishing line just approaching. They will come across to start the 50-minute race ahead of us. No more waiting. Let's go racing. Christian Sammet leading the way. Then, of course, the drivers have got to get used to initially the setup, of course, of the cars. They've also got to get used to the tyres. They've got to warm them up. They've got to get used to the fuel that they've also put in the cars as well. It's completely different from this, and as well with that small brake, that could pose a little bit of a threat later down the line for the drivers, of course, because with that brake it might just break a little bit of the momentum that they have.
Indeed, there's still plenty of opportunities all throughout this race, and you're just having a look at where the grid's coming in. There's a pretty big lunge down the inside of one of our cars. That might have been Terry, who was trying to make a move there. He's looking very, very aggressive. But here comes Ayrton Birmingham around the outside of the Mercedes, but he is on that outside line. Can he break a little bit later? And Chris Sammet gets put offline there by the Mercedes, and now he's having to look at the rear view mirrors and Joel Valson de Bono. And look at that, how the BMW has just lost a little bit of momentum. And it does seem like all over the back goes De Bono. He's trying that outside line, and he's trying to get the launch of the corner, but Birmingham, oh my goodness me, the rear just going on the BMW, the Nissan just having a look up ahead. He does want that place, but these are getting pretty feisty in these first minutes. And look at that, off track goes Jonathan Spiteri. He did make the move in the early stages of that. McLaren has got a slow down penalty, and that is going to come right at the start of the straight. So you're going to lose all that momentum. And look at this absolute tough between Gordon and Dent.
Yeah, it's getting really intense here, and this is in the battle for P5, 4, 5 and 6 at the moment. No doubt Christian Sammet setting the fastest lap of this race so far. It's the first lap of this race with just over 48 minutes to go. Orland sending it down the inside then on Denzel Agius. Not the best start at all for a man starting in P5, already down a position, but looking to try and get the momentum back in that Lexus. One of the very few Lexus actually to be taking part in this particular championship. So obviously Denzel finding a lot more comfort in the use of that one. Straight into the wall, Dave Potts. Not sure if he's got away with that one, but there's got to be extensive damage now on that 911, and he loses a couple more positions. That is crippling for Dave Potts, who was looking to try and keep up the momentum that he had from a great race in Suzuka.
Indeed he was, and he was just trying to see if he could search around the outside, but it looks like he just ran out of road and found an Armco barrier in that one, keeping on tabs here with Dent. And I think this is a driver we definitely need to be keeping an eye on. You see he's just sitting in sixth here, but he's not one to, push his way through the field. We talk about that management in the early stages. We look at Clint Orland in that beautiful Ferrari livery with the 44 on the rear right bumper as well. That's a tremendous livery up against the Marlboro McLaren livery. Two stunning liveries in the Asphalt King Series. Let us know which one is your favourite in the chat. Is it the Marlboro McLaren? Is it the Scuderia Ferrari car? Or is it maybe another car that you completely see on the grid? Maybe it's Dent's rainbow coloured Lexus, or is it another one further up the field? But Orland might have an opportunity here. Does the Porsche have the legs here on the McLaren to have a look down the inside? I don't think he's going to go for the move here towards turn number 1, just because it's a sweeping corner. He doesn't want to make any form of collision. But look at that, how he's married up to that left-hand apex through there.
Yeah, Orland absolutely keeping up the pressure then on JP005, John Paul Vella as well. If you're just tuning in, welcome aboard to the Asphalt Kings. You're just talking very briefly there, Adam, about favourite liveries. One of my favourite liveries, believe it or not, was not on this particular game, but rather on a Assetto Corsa. It was Gabriele Quattromani racing along in his car, his Ferrari, which was liveried to look exactly that of Lightning McQueen with the number 95 Rusties, which I thought was absolutely fabulous. So that's a personal favourite of mine. Here's Orland going for the move. Mistake from John Paul Vella. There it goes, and that will make a move around the outside. And that's what I said about 7, 8 and 9. If you end up making a mistake there, you could end up in all sorts of trouble going through 8, 9 and 10. When you mount that curve, you end up going wide. Here comes Aussie as well, man of the moment, man of the myth, the legend himself as well, around the outside of JP, and that is it. Aussie will get the move, and he now moves up to P6. The midfield, did say it would be a little bit of a mixed bag, but towards the front three, it is all status quo between them.
Indeed, and that midfield pack, the more they battle, the more they'll be giving to that top three. You really think that it will be between Samus and Addix, and then, as I say, and Birmingham. How that gap is really hitting it on, because it looks like from the track map that Christian Samus really pulled a little bit of an advantage out here. But Denzel Adjus continues to work on his way. I do apologise if there's any problem with my microphone audio. The internet connections have not been nice to me today, but we're trying to push through on. We'll have to see how they all pan out. But yeah, as much as this race is starting to pan out, so kind of multiple stories going on. It's Orland really starting to put in the laps here, 2 seconds behind De Bono. James, I wonder if there's potential that these guys can maybe work together and latch onto that top three.
Yes, I would recommend that they do exactly that. And Denzel Adjus actually will be thinking about that one as well, and not put Chris Orland under too much pressure, because Clint Orland rather put under too much pressure, because at the moment they really need to find that time. And if anything, they found a couple of tenths just in this sector alone, so perhaps they're just starting to work on it. But De Bono is at the moment, it's actually putting a little bit of pressure on Ayrton Birmingham at the moment, and that's pink livery BMW. He's lost the rear a couple of occasions, and again losing it there and managing to hold what was a pretty aggressive tank slapper. And so the BMW clearly got a little bit of a heavy foot at the moment as Ayrton Birmingham. He's finding the pressure from Chris Sammut to be a bit impalpable. Actually, Chris Sammut finding some serious pace at the moment out at the front, and no doubt deserving of his pole position as it stands so far. And as De Bono is actually continuing to put a lot of pressure here on the championship winner from last time out, defending champion. Is he going to go for the move? A late breaker potentially going into turn one. He will have the advantage. It is a long sweeper, is number one. Is he going to go for the late breaker? No, in the end, just stuck it in behind.
I would say this was the late breaker. This is, you have to be on that inside line. You know, if you're not on that inside line and almost clear the car, you know, you've got to really put that in a position where you've got opposition exposure there. It's maybe a half break for these GT before chucking the car in and then just playing around, feathering with the throttle, and then just pressing it down as you get round that corner. So the way I kind of take that line on this one. Looks like I had to Birmingham. It just took time to lose a little bit of touch into Christian Sammut. Meanwhile, Clint Orland is looking to try and push on and go that gap down to De Bono, because look at that was 2.2 seconds last time around about this time last time it had just dipped underneath 2 seconds. Now finds himself at 1.3 and tumbling as well. This is massive. These two are just finding their way into the battle for the top three here, and we can have an almighty tussle over this win, let alone the podium. Pit stop phase, James, it's just going to get even more important and crucial. Ooh.
Yes, that's going to be the critical one here. So we're on the 5th lap now. We're going to be approaching the 6th lap as they come across the start-finishing line at the end of this hairpin. Tyre-wise at the moment, between the front 5, it looks like they've all been kept in close proximity in terms of what they're going to do as regards to strategy. So I'm expecting sets of mediums pretty much across the board here. But they're now just settling into their own races now. Gap now 1.3 for Clint Orland, which has allowed him to get back in touching distance of De Bono. But De Bono is now going to be thinking, if they're seriously making some inroads behind me here, surely I've got to consider this against Ayrton Birmingham. Ayrton looking to try and bounce back after what was actually a relatively poor performance generally at Suzuka, but lucky to get the P3. So he'll be hoping to potentially get a little bit of a more well-deserved podium on this particular race.
It's a lot of focus on the battle. What about more behind? Let's have a look maybe toward that train being led by Oscar Schwerer. He's got Jonathan Spiteri behind him as well. We've got also Daniel, sorry, not Daniel, that's David Misford or Spiteri getting a little bit of a tax zapper through there. The McLaren just does not seem as planted as it usually is here, James.
Yeah, Jonathan Spiteri, not known for making little mistakes like that, but about 3 or 4 times I've seen him just going into the corner a little bit too, well, should we say, aggressive. He misses his apex, misses the curb, and ends up completely narrowing his angle going into the corner, and the McLaren seems to be bottoming out more aggressively on the curbs as a result, so he's got to keep that in check here, because no doubt Osbert Zayev is going to end up, you know, really keeping that pressure on in that BMW. Now, it's a good exit though from Jonathan Spiteri, so they'll go side by side towards turn 1. You'll prefer to have the inside line, no doubt, as we can go on board actually with Spiteri, so fingers crossed the BMW will probably, in fact, electing not to battle too hard, brakes early and allows Spiteri to get in front. So Ozzy now relegated down to P7, Spiteri now up to P6, gap 3.5 to the guy in front of him, and that is Deselagius.
See how that all starts to all come together. We now look at the onboard there with Denzel Adjus momentarily, and he heads his way through. He's starting to really connect here with the rear end of Clint Orland. I think he's just trying to tell that Ferrari livery car, come on, we got to get onto the back of these guys. It's critical for our race. Just seen there, Clint Orland trying to use absolutely everything, but at the time he's you know, he's got to have made a mistake somewhere, even if that is, you know, in momentum, if that's maybe too hard on the tyres, because he's dropped back to now 2.2 seconds, which is a massive amount of time to give over to that top three battle.
Wouldn't mind just doing me a favour and just switching over to P1, Christian Samet, for just a quick second, because it looks like to me that they're all within the same tyre range, so it doesn't look like there's going to be any issues in terms of tyres. But one thing is for certain is De Bono is getting extremely close once again, and as he begins his attack against the Ayrton Birmingham. P3 please, Mr. Director. We're just following to see if there's going to be any move going into turn number 1. I would not expect potentially through 1, but if he lines this up right and a mistake from Ayrton Birmingham ends up kicking off a little bit of an issue through 2, 3, 4, that could open up an opportunity in sector 3. So let's see what ends up happening then. You see go through the long sweepers here, and then this long sweeping left-hander then on turn number 6. We'll see how much of the curbs Addix is willing to go for. No move surely going through this one. Actually missing his apex ever so slightly here is Ayrton Birmingham, but coating in too early. De Bono ends up hitting the grass. Is that going to cost him time going straight down here, then down the hill? Bit of a clumsy set of corners then here coming through turns number 9, 10 and 11. Late breaker for Ayrton Birmingham to keep him within touching distance, but losing the rear ever so slightly off of the curbs. BMW not known to be low to the ground, so I wouldn't expect bottoming out to be an issue here for the pink machine in front. But is it going to be a move potentially for De Bono? Switchback opportunity if he gets this right through the hairpin. Tries to get the power down early, but no dice at all off of the curbs, and losing time if anything to Ayrton Birmingham. And I'd say that's it's honours even once again between the front three.
Does seem to be that way if you have a look at the whole spiel at this moment in time. It may look pretty static, but they're all just doing their little part in thinking about the long run. We're 13 minutes into this race, and I don't really expect any big move to be made. Remember, this is for a race lead, and you know, you can just manage, but can build a little bit of frustration, and that will turn into aggression, and you can go a little bit overboard. So it's about managing your emotions and the adrenaline that's going to be running through the main of these sim races, because you know De Bono's come in as a debutant. Oh, he had a big old moment just as I was talking about him, but I'm saying, yeah, Joel Fowles De Bono comes in as a new driver for this round. Missed out on Suzuka, and he's got a brilliant opportunity to go and take a race win, but on debut it's going to be a big old nerve shaker as well, because he's going to really show that he's up against some of the best in the Maltese racing scene. with Ayeta Birmingham up ahead, and the reigning champion and Chris Samet, who just seems to be so on top of everything. So this is great stuff here. Orland now closing that gap down to 1.4 seconds. So I think he's doing a little bit of spending and how do you say it? Spending and saving at the same time. So really just trying to work his way through and putting that gap down. I was going to say, but it's now sitting at just 1.5 seconds here.
I'll tell you what though, Joel Fazon Del Bono ended up really saving himself there, and he's lucky to even still. He's lucky to have only lost 2/10. Never mind, lost the entire car in that particular incident. But in the end, Clint Orland has now become that little bit of a push in the certainly a Ferrari-inspired Porsche 911 livery. And as I mentioned earlier on, an absolutely gorgeous livery it is. Inspired by most recent Ferrari, I would imagine. But Clint Orland actually sets the fastest lap of this race so far as well, with a 1:34.790. That was back on lap number 4. So he is able to push. The question is can he keep that consistency up? Because looking at those lap times on the right hand side of your screen, the answer to that one, simply put, is yes, he is consistent. 1:35.2, 35.4, 35.2, 35.2, 35.2, but he's not going to keep doing it if he keeps mounting the grass like that.
Indeed, and I think with Clint Orland's pace, he's just running really well here, but he just needs those front three to have a bit of a tussle. Exactly what they're doing. Look at Ayeta Birmingham right on the rear bumper of Christian Samet's Mercedes. That Mercedes will be starting to feel a little bit of pressure from behind, wondering what is the plan here for Ayeta Birmingham. What should be happening to see in the slipstream. 15 minutes has gone on the clock, but we're still maybe just approaching that kind of first quarter of the race. Now pulling into the slipstream with that body posture of the car from Ayeta Birmingham, it does show that he wants to attack a Mercedes. It's just about how much does he want to go aggressive on this, take some bits out of the tyres. This will be a big eye opener, I think, to 4th and 5th place as well. So this trio could become a quintet.
It'll be pretty critical here now as well, because with Orland seriously picking up the pace here and actually putting De Bono under pressure, was Lombard with the man at the moment, the champion Ayrton Birmingham, was looking to try and get a good run on Chris Samet, and he certainly will actually, and he might be looking for it actually going through down at the bottom of the hill, and this is not usually an overtaking place, so someone's going to have to give up if it's not going to be at 8, 9 and 10. Down the inside they will go, and will that move be done and dusted? I'm not sure. Where is Chris Samet? He's still in front of the Ayrton Birmingham, and actually allowing De Bono to get into the mix here, and down the inside he will go. Is he going to go for it into 35R? He's going to have to try and keep it nice and cool, nice and easy. Could be a tap on the rear. Don't want to pit manoeuvre him though, do you, Ayrton Birmingham? But in the end he was looking for a battle with Chris Samet, and he lost the position in the end.
Down in towards this next chicane here, you're just seeing how Addix is really just trying to push on here. He will be very frustrated how he's gone from the lead of this race momentarily into pretty much 3rd place now on the road. And this is the eye view here of Clint Orland for the first time. He's pretty much within reaching distance. Just put his arm out and almost tapped the back of the rear wing of the BMW, chucking the car in, trying to feel anything and to see if he can potentially find a little bit of momentum in the car. He'll be bringing Denzel Andrews along with him, so can the winner from Suzuka also make hay on this one, because he has got a big old opportunity. I wonder how much he'll be managing as well. We're able to bring a graphic up for the tide, but I don't think we should do that just yet. Keep ourselves, keep our audience just waiting to see what will happen in terms of strategy as well. Until I to push on here and see the times at this moment in time. They're kind of looking around the mid 35s, but the 35.9 last time around will just not help here. Comparing that to other drivers, he is doing the most saving here, comparing to what Orland are doing, Addix is doing, De Bono is doing as well. But remember, they're using a lot of tyres here, James, and this is huge for this moment.
That De Bono's actually probably in the better position because he's got significantly more front tyres in comparison to those around him, especially that of Denzel Agius. Now, I was saying he's just creeping in the background to say if anyone makes a mistake, he's happy to swallow positions up, but he'd be lucky if his tyres actually go the distance at the moment because they are suffering a little bit, as is Chris Sammett's. Chris Sammett's tyres are not particularly strong here, so I'm wondering if the Mercedes is a little bit sort of stretchier, a bit harder on its tyres, whereas De Bono in the GTR so much cleaner with those front tyres at the moment. The front right looking especially much better off, so it'd be interesting to see what the tyres are going to be looking like when the pit stops occur. I'm wondering if he's actually on a slightly harder compounded tyre as well, actually, De Bono, and if he is, he's certainly going to, this is the part of the race where it's going to be so critical for him now. He wants to get past everyone that is on a slower tyre as soon as possible. Is he going to go for the dive into this corner? It wouldn't be wise to do so, but if the other person understeers, he will have the grip, and he's certainly putting Chris under the pressure around the outside of turn 6, and what a move indeed for De Bono, but the power of the Mercedes power unit is certainly going to power him all the way through to turn 8, 9, 10. Is the move going to be done and dusted? On this occasion it won't be, but De Bono certainly putting Chris Sammer under pressure, and surely Sammer has got to be pitting at the end of this lap.
And the absolute growl from that Mercedes AMG V8 helping Sammer to just that lead, but look at De Bono, he is absolutely surrounding the rear end of Christian Sammer. We're almost halfway into this race here as well, which really gives a good idea on how the strategies are about to go. Sammer, I think, has just got to go for another 4.5 minutes around this circuit, which is going to be such a tough ask for the way his tyres are looking, but if he can just hold on, I think he might be able to put himself in a decent position unless somebody decides to make a reaction here. Doesn't seem like that's the plan for anyone here, but De Bono has been overtaken here by Ayrton Birmingham and sliced his way back up the inside. He's not having it. He's going to have to push here the BMW out wider just that little bit, but to leave a little bit of racing room here, boys. You're racing here and you need to keep it clean, otherwise, oh my goodness, the attack there from the Nissan. Oh, this is getting really leery, and they're just losing time to the Mercedes up ahead.
And of course bringing in the likes of Orland and Denzel Agius as well, just in behind. I'm really surprised that Ayrton Birmingham with his credentials actually went for a gap that was severely closing down. Denzel Agius is getting all over the back at the moment of Clint Orland at the moment, so that could be one to watch as well, going through turns 8, 9 and 10. This is not where we'd expect all the overtaking to occur, but certainly where one could be lost or set up. As it stands so far, De Bono's definitely getting the better exits. The car is just turning in. I do think he is on a harder compounded tyre, is De Bono, and if that is the case, he needs to get this move done on Chris Sammer ASAP, because otherwise, when everyone pits and goes on that pressure compound, his race will be significantly slower versus everyone else. If anything, his race win potential is starting to depreciate with every passing corner, and that could be really disappointing for the Maltese man in the Nissan GTR. Is he going to go for the move into 15? He will not on this occasion, but turn 1 could be one if he gets the better exit. Now we're about 2 minutes away from the halfway point in this race. Is anyone going to go for it, or are they going to dive in? Chris Sammer is in. He's had enough. He don't want to continue on these tyres. How much fuel is going to put in, I wonder. It was set to medium tyres. Also on for the likes of Addix as well as Dens as well. So the pair of them also in for a set of new tyres and some new fuel as well. I wonder what tyres is going to be. Of course, it has to be another compound. It can't be a medium tyre. It has to be another one. Ozzy is on a set of soft tyres at the moment, so I'm surprised he's going the distance, but Dens is leaving the pit lane right now. And in fact, he is in a prime position here versus everyone else, but he hasn't put a lot of fuel in.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. I'm not entirely sure. Being told in a little chat here, I think Denzel Agius is going for a 2-stop. My word, James, if that is true from what I'm being told, that is one of the most boldest strategies I've ever seen. I've never seen a 2-stop here in Gran Turismo. Usually I've seen hour races, but they only do 1-stop. They pit right around the 30-minute mark and go on to the end. This is something else, and I absolutely love it. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work, but Denzel Agius, you brave man.
So what he wants to happen right now is he's gone for the low fuel, super soft tyre. So he's gone for a soft tyre with the low fuel in. As you can see, he's only got just above a quarter of a tank worth of fuel in that Lexus, so he's hoping that he can just do qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap and then try and get the jump to do the two-stop. He's currently got a gap against Spiteri of around about 11 seconds. Chris Samet, how far back is Chris Samet from P9, I wonder? That'd be nice to see, actually, because the gap is around about 3 seconds. So that's around about a 14-second gap Samet has got to the likes of Denzel Agius, so take that with a pinch of salt and keep that documented. We have got other people in as well, people now fueling for a longer stint here, so we've got Samet now just overtaking the likes of Falzon de Bono, who is actually in such close proximity. In fact, where is Falzon de Bono going to come out? He comes out in front of Ozzy, in front of a lot of people, but he's gone for three quarters of a tank on this one, so he should be going to the end of this race. But I think there's definitely going to have to be some fuel saving here for the likes of Falzon de Bono, and actually it looks like to me that Ayrton Birmingham has done exactly the same thing. So they've gone for a slightly lower fuel, which is kind of surprising considering you're on the throttle for a significant amount of time.
So much management happening for a lot of our drivers, and currently here with Ayrton Birmingham dropping into, and it looks like that seems like Denzel Agius is moving his way slightly up the field, but of course we know with that low fuel, you're sitting there in the bottom left hand side, the fuel for everyone else here, you know, we know he's gone low, know that he's pushing on here, and if he can, how fast he can catch up to Daniel, because that will be that'll be quite telling. Looks like Clint Orland is into the pit lane as well here, so he'll be fueling up right to the end here. So it'll be interesting to see how that Ferrari liveried car goes. Fastest lap there for Denzel Agius as well, as he crosses overtime in B. 33.6 is an absolutely stonking time for Denz.
He's aggressive.
Look at that gap closing on.
He's so aggressive out there at the moment, isn't he? And I think the problem with Denzel Agius is that, well, I'll say the problem, actually, this is the good thing here. Everyone else around him that was racing with him are now on a very much a saving strategy. They didn't fill up all the way to the end, so they've got to fuel save throughout this race. Denzel, on the other hand, is pushing so hard out there, getting fastest lap after fastest lap, trying to push along and then get the pit stop, because of course he has to save all of this time that he's going to lose with his prospective second pit stop, where he could theoretically go back to a medium tyre, where everyone else could actually be now on a hard tyre, which could actually work in Denzel's favour. So with everyone else around fuel saving, he's not, and he's going to be on a softer compound of tyre on his second stop. Denzel is a dark horse in this race, I'm telling you, Adam.
He is indeed, but he's coming up to a big old pack here. This is the battle for second you're seeing, with, it seems like, David Misford leading it, then got John Paul Vella, and then you got Daniel 31 in here, I believe a new driver to the scene here. But look how much they're tussling around. They don't really care, to be honest, and I think a lot of them are going to have to duck off to the pit lane here. It looks like two of them are, and so that's going to leave Denz right on the edge here to just go past John Paul Vella if the opportunity opens up. Just wait. Is he going to pop up on the inside line? No, I think he's going to try and get it on that long left-hander next time around, but he's again married up to that inside line beautifully, and he's taking second place. This is unbelievable stuff from Denz.
He lost only a tenth, by the way, in all of that traffic. In fact, it's about half a tenth. In fact, for a previous lap was a 1:33.741. So, despite getting caught up in all of the what he would call traffic, even though of course they are racing for position, he's actually in prime position here is Denzel now, because now he's got a 6-second gap to the car in front of him, and that is now clean air for him to really push hard now on these soft tyres with the low fuel. He's just dipping now below, just a little bit above actually, an eighth of a tank. So opportunity for Denzel to keep pushing here, and I think he's probably going to be pitting around about the 37th, 38th minute mark for a set of mediums for the next 12 minutes after that. So he is going to have to push as hard as he can now, is Denz, if he wants to try and make this two-stop work. As it stands so far, doing a decent job, but actually losing around about 4/10 in that corner alone, perhaps off the back of John Paul Vella.
yeah, you can see there on the mini map the gap between Dens, who's the red dot for the moment at least, and you can see that little blue one behind. That is John Paul Vella. Then you're looking at the two behind that are just about to come through the right left hander. That is Christian Samet and Daniel 31. You're focusing on that that little blue one just about to go into the hairpin. So that for now is Christian Samet. The gap he has, he's got a whole straight to go down. So he's going to just try and fit in that little gap between Daniel and just like Ayrton Birmingham. That will be the gap you want to put yourself into. So he's going to have to try and push on here. That gap to Jonathan Spiteri, I think he'll just probably just try and tap up to the back there of Spiteri and then maybe put himself into the pit lane. But there is a fine margin, because you spoke about there being about 12 minutes of pushing time. I don't know that's going to be enough there for Denzel Agius. I think it may have to be closer to 15 in all honesty, just so you get that extra time to make that advantage and see what you deal with, rather than what may feel leaving it late, because a lot of these sim races are going to be very stressed in the car and really pushing on, full focus, locked in, to try and potentially make that win come here. Because look at this, starting to go low on the fuel is Denzel Agius.
Mr. Director himself, Brandon, making a very good point of this one. Let's check Samet's lap time. Well, we just did, and actually on the previous lap he was 1.1 seconds a lap slower than Denzel Agius. That is a testament at the moment to what Denzel's strategy is all about. He's got to try and find as much time as he can, and he is finding time out there at the moment. Is Denzel. We've got JS19 now in the pit lane. If I think that one might be right, I think that might be Joseph Patch, but I might be wrong. We'll have to just quickly get correction on that one if I'm mistaken. But nonetheless, he's now in the pit lane to serve his pit stop. JPO 0005, that's John Paul Vella. And here's Ayrton Senna Marlboro McLaren now in to serve his pit stop, and he'll be going to the end of this race. Denzel Agius then reclaims, takes the lead of this race rather, on this alternate strategy. Gap exactly 20 seconds. I don't know how much time he's going to need, because it depends on how much fuel he's brave enough to put in, but he will be pitting in the next couple of laps, and what will be no doubt actually about a 15-minute sprint to the end, but he will be on a softer compound of tyre versus everyone else. So is it worth just spending a little bit more time putting that extra bit of fuel in, knowing that you're going to get to the end of this race, and the fact that you can push on a softer compound of tyre for your second stint? Denzel is a favourite, I'm telling you.
He is indeed. And bearing in mind, he's got 21 seconds, my apologies there, to Christian Samet. So he's got to make it intentions clear that he's coming into the pit. I'm just thinking about gaps here, because you see that 2-car gap. I believe that's going to be Daniel and Ayrton Birmingham. If he fits himself into there, it's going to be a big amount of trouble, especially if he's behind Daniel, who's, bearing in mind, had a very, very quiet race. He's now put himself up into a podium contending place here. What an absolutely superb run he's had. My word, it's been absolutely brilliant to watch. And in all honesty, I've been so looking forward to this. Now, the crucial pit stop. You're right there, James. Denzel Agius is fueling up for his last-ditch attempt at winning this race here for the second round of the Asphalt King Series, and making him sure that he is fueled right towards the end here. Samet moves through into the lead and releases Lexus. Unleash the monster.
Fair, fresh medium tyre now on Denzel Agius' car. He's in P5. He knows he's got more ahead of him, but he has to get back in front of two people who are battling at the moment. You've got Ayrton Birmingham battling with JS19 at the moment in this little scrap P3, and they're still going side by side through the set of S's here, and in the end he has to tuck him behind just Ayrton Birmingham, so the move not going to be easily taken here. That could pose a threat for Denzel Agius, of course, who is battling with these guys, but with that fresh medium tyre, can he have the grip to get the move and get everything done past everyone else? It's just over, I think just over 2/3 of a fuel tank in Denzel Agius' car, so he's confident now he can get to the end of this race. I would be as well in this one, correct me. In fact, it is just a little bit over half the tank. That might be a little bit squeaky bum time, as they would say, but with over 15-ish minutes left in this race, if he doesn't put a foot wrong, I still think he's got a shout.
Kyoto as well, giving himself quite a lot of time, and I just he's gone on the right tyres as well. The way this is anti-clockwise, the front rights are getting absolutely ruined. I would love to see what everyone else's tyres are looking like, especially going into these final 15 minutes of the race, 16 minutes of the race. Mistake there from Dens, but you're just seeing there, clicking through. The time decided to go for some of the drivers here. We'll have to start doing a little bit of managing, unlike Dens, who I think is going to just try and push on here. This is absolutely bubbling up to be an absolute corker, James. I don't know about you, but also want to give credit here. Daniel 31. Where on earth did the Pentor driver come from? This is absolutely superb.
Yeah, Daniel Malia is known actually for this one. He did this in Suzuka, and he's now putting continued pressure on Chris Samet as well. He did this last time out with his strategy. He seems to be a bit of a strategy king actually, is Malia, and that could actually put Samet's, well, what he would have thought would be a race potential victory in jeopardy. Here he goes down the inside line then of 7, 8, 9 and 10, and that move is done and dusted. So Malia now retakes the lead in this race. Is Samet got anything in reply going through up the hill towards 11 and then into 12? Is he going to go for the dive? It's a late switch, a delayed defensive move from Malia. That move is not going to be very well taken, I think, from the man in second place, Chris Samet, but he will look for the move potentially going into 15. This is the race victory that they are fighting for at the moment. They're going to go through 13 and 14. There is that move done and dusted. Then is it going to be done into 15? Is he going to go for the late breaker? I wonder. Will Chris Samet look for it on this occasion? He will not, but it is too late on the brakes from Malia, and that is offering Samet an opportunity potentially into turn 1 on the power early, and he's got the tow. Will the Mercedes have the power, the raw energy of that V8 power unit you can hear? Is he going to carry it into turn 1? I wonder. He's getting in his wing mirrors. Is he going to go for the dive? He will not, but he will definitely have the tow, and then no move on that occasion. He gets the understeer, and actually Daniel getting the better exit.
Indeed it was. That was a very, very tough battle. I think Daniel knew what he was doing, trying to put that onto the outside line, but it was just the scary thought of he was just about to potentially across the nose of the Mercedes. It does seem like that Mercedes is too fast, but look at that front right. That has taken an absolute beating, and it has still got another 14 minutes left on this race circuit. That is going to be one dead tyre by the end of its stint. My word, Samet is in a bit of a sticky situation here. Our pole sitter has not made life easy for himself, as he now, because that black AMG is now starting to fall into the clutches into the battle in behind. Johnson Spiteri to Birmingham. Denzel Adkins now start to be clambering onto the rear of Christian Samet. If he isn't careful here, this is now starting to really heat up. And look at the lap times here, 34.9 last time around for Dens. It's not quite the lap times we're seeing. Has he got past Ayrton Birmingham yet? I'm a little bit worried here about this one, James.
Denzel Adkins is lapping in line with the likes of Daniel Malia and Christian Samet at the front at the moment. He's just not in the right position, and this is where poor qualifying can unfortunately affect your long-term prospects in a race, and that's a very well-placed point actually from yourself, Adam, earlier on in this race weekend. He's going for it, getting into the wing mirrors on the outside of Ayrton Birmingham, and it has caught him a little bit. He is a little bit wider than perhaps he wants to be going through one, so as a result they can go side by side through these next set of corners. It's exactly what Denzel Adkins wants. He mounts the curve, goes around the outside, it's squeezed ever so slightly, but that Lexus is now through, but he's got the tow, has the BMW, and he's got the action. Is he going to be able to go around the outside then of this hairpin, and then he's going to get the move done, I wonder, but he will have the extra grip. Well, Denzel Adkins, and with those tyres fresh out of the blankets, Denzel Adkins has surely got that move done and dusted as they go down the hill.
Oh, that was a bit of a squeeze there from Denzel Adkins. And my goodness me, that was right on the limit. Ayrton Birmingham trying to see if he can potentially react here, but he just doesn't seem to be able to. Maybe he can here. He found the gap. He found the wiggly rear end of Dens. Is not quite computing with the driver, and this is now starting to become a desperate measure here for Denzel Adkins. He finds his way back up the inside, but this is costing him time. It looks like Malia and Samet are just himself and company up ahead. Then we got the little battle of Spiteri and Addicts, and then you have that one of 5th and 6th here. And they continue to push on through there. Plenty of battles going on. In the pits, Daniel Malley, we completely disregarded what he was up to here, and the Penzol driver is in.
Yeah, he's in, and that will be the end of any prospect, I would suspect, for the race, because there's 10 minutes to go, and a fresh set of soft tyres, as it looks like Addicts is going to be in a bit of trouble here. I'm not sure what we're seeing on the screen there, but we have got people leaving the session by the looks of things, which is a bit unfortunate, but Denzel Agius now leaving is he left the pit lane? I think he's left the pit lane. He's now 25 seconds back from the leader of this race. So, Jonathan Spiteri third as well. He was nowhere. He had a moment, says the race director, as does as well JS19, also struggling out there at the moment. So, it looks like to me that Denzel Agius, believe it or not, Adam's actually now on a 3-stop because he's pitted again, has Denzel Agius, I believe.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to go onto those fresh tyres, the fastest tyres, because they clearly were not.
Oh no, he's made it. Sorry, Adam, I want to correct myself. Sorry, it was a mistake. He's lost a bucket of time, and his strategy is now completely out of the window. He was battling with the likes of what seems to be Ayrton Birmingham. He's now down in P6, but his tyres haven't changed, so he hasn't pitted. He just lost it by the looks of things at turn number 15. So Denzel Agius, the dark horse, is now out of this race in terms of potentially getting the race victory. So he'll be scrapping for the points haul for 10 points, maybe 12 if he can get near Dave Potts. So as it stands so far, are these tyres going to last? We've got 9.5 minutes left in this session, and I'll be honest with you, you're right about those front right tyres. They are shredding around here.
They are indeed, and that's what I was trying to mention, that they are absolutely going, and I wonder what the difference between Spiteri and Samet is now, because that is going to be a pretty close battle. You've seen there at the top of your screen on the track map, that is the difference between the two. I want to say that is roughly about 6 seconds between Samet and Spiteri. There's still a bit of potential. Yeah, it is 6 seconds. But both their tyres dead as well. Samet and Spiteri's are completely finished. Whilst there's whilst the mistake and the lack of tyre grip for Denzel Agius means there's absolutely nothing in the pot for him. Pretty much going to have to start going defensive here from Daniel Malia, which is not something I expected to say. For Dent, who was so competitive the first time I covered Asphalt Kings, but he's only got one win to carry on with this from Suzuka. This is going to be one to forget, I think, for tonight for Denzel Agius. I don't know about you, James, but yeah, this has not been his day at all.
Not so sure about that one, because if everyone's tyres are falling off as aggressively as they are here, could those tyres actually last the next 8.5 minutes before they're basically driving straight when they're trying to make a corner, I wonder. Keep an eye out on Denzel Agius, who's battling at the moment with Daniel Malia out there as well in that little battle, and Sama is in, and that's because he was running out of fuel. So there are 2 stops now occurring. It just seems like Denzel Agius decided to go for an alternative 2-stop strategy, which could actually work in his favour if he didn't make that mistake earlier on. We'll see where he comes out then. Christian Samet now down to 3rd, make that 4th. It'll be 5th no doubt in a second, where Denzel Agius now coming across the start finishing line right now. He's now up to 4th, but he's battling with Daniel Malia. He's not going to go for the move into 1, surely, not in that Penske inspired GTR. So he stays in P5 at the moment, but a real mixed bag in terms of strategy here. It looks like the 2-stop was the ideal strategy, and that's simply because it's such a fast-paced circuit with the medium and high-speed corners. The front tyres are getting shredded.
I also want to mention that Christian Samet, look how far behind he is. I just spotted him coming out of the pit lane in the as he came out of the pit lane. Look at that, how close is he on a fresh set of tyres? He can actually burn through these tyres like he's singing Ellie Goulding, I'd say. 7 minutes remaining. Daniel's trying to go for a move here, and he needs to make this move. It is critical as ever. This would be for the race win between Daniel and Samet. I think Daniel Malia is absolutely trying to push on through here. Definitely going to make this move on Denzel Agius, who has such clean tyres.
I think here, James, we might have 3 for the win. It depends what Spitteri's going to do, what John Paul going to do, and what David Nesford are going to do. 1, 2, 3. But I think this is for the race lead. Dens and tyres are a little bit worse for wear. The grip is not quite there. You can already see that Malia is just pushing on, and also with Samet is going to be absolutely ratcheting pushing through his tyres. There you go. My word, we're in for an absolute classic showdown between our 3 drivers.
6 minutes to go, folks. Answers on a postcard for who you think your favourite is for the victory here tonight, because I've got no clue, to put it bluntly. Denzel Agius' race was all about sort of using up his tyres. Now he's going to be the one that's going to be ultra conservative in comparison to everyone else with that inverse strategy. Of course, now his tyres around about to about 30-ish% worn. They'll go to the end of this race, but they'll be significantly more worn in comparison to the other cars. And the Lexus is not known for its pure pace in comparison to the likes of the GTR, and definitely in a straight line against the Mercedes. There's Jonathan Spiteri leading the way. There's John Paul Vella in second place. You got Dave Potts in third. Once again, Dave Potts teasing the podium. But the question is, will he be able to go the distance? So he's got 5.5 minutes to go. His tyres will go the distance, but will his fuel? Because that's what happened last time at Suzuka. Got the podium right underhand, and they got to the Casio Triangle and lost it. Dens learning from his mistake as well, not mounting the curve so aggressively, and Daniel Malia behind him is racing very aggressively. Chris Samet might be quite clever here. He's going down the inside. No move just yet, though.
Kind of spin out the final corner, so not entirely sure who that was. They're just about to go over the time in line now, but yeah, just saw that kind of we see an arrow and it's going completely the wrong direction. That's kind of what I saw, and I was like, that isn't right. Anyway, we're now facing ourselves in towards 4.5 minutes remaining, and this is an absolute brilliant showdown. Oh my word, Dens now having to put that car defensive here. Will Daniel Malia be able to have a look up that inside line? Nope, he's going to have to now look behind and go defensive here, because that Mercedes of Christian Samet is trying to search his way up the inside, and think, is there a gap for me in here? Not sure on this one. Still Spiteri, John Paul Vella, Potty from Dens, from Malia, Samet. We've been for an absolute finish. And there's so many times I can say, so many superlatives I can throw out, but we've just got to focus here on the action itself here, James. And I think there could be a move here in the making for Daniel Malia.
Yeah, could be getting here, but the inside is completely covered over by Denzel Agius. He'll have to be around the outside if he can do it. He's going to go around the outside line. The gap is there, but is he going to get shut off? He certainly is. Christian Samet also trying to get in there as well. He's got a little bit of a track because he's decided to brake early, and that's given him an opportunity to brake and accelerate earlier than Daniel Malia, and that's allowed Christian Samet to take that position straight out of the hands of the Penske influenced GTR, who's going for the inside move, and the inside line was just there. He squeezed Samet down to the outside line, but he will have the inside of the next corner, and that move surely is going to be all done and dusted. It's getting close, it's getting tidy. It's a switchback from Chris Samet at turn number 14. They're still side by side going through into turn number 15. He'll have the inside line, will Daniel Malia. The switchback opportunity potentially for Chris Samet. No, it's completely shut off, and that move is still not all done and dusted as of yet, because they're still side by side going through into turn number 1, and the raw power in that Mercedes power unit is powering Samet straight into P5 going into turn number 1. It's going to be an early cut in from the GTR, but the move is done and dusted. Chris Samet will now go after Denzel Agius, who is trying his hardest to close up to Potsy, but as you can see, Potsy's now having to go on a bit of a lift and coast strategy because he's got significantly less fuel than everyone else. In fact, there's the red blinking light. Oh, don't let this...
That was a bit of a cut-off there for James Otter there. Hopefully he's back and managing to recover his voice for a little bit, because Daniel Mifsford, or Dave Potsy, as he's being called usually here, is still just fighting out for a podium. Meanwhile, here comes Malia down that inside line. He'll throw the car in and he'll put that car ahead of Chris Samet. Sam will be looking at this thing, well, what are we doing here? We need to get a move on, otherwise Denz is going to be searching down the road. But I think he already knows this is the position he's going to be finishing off at, and there is a big old P2 in potential here as well. Meanwhile, Jonathan Spiteri is continuing out here, still leading this race. He has been so silent, but Spiteri, with a minute and a half remaining, we should be getting 2 laps here left at Kyoto Driving Park, and it's the McLaren that has come from absolutely nowhere with his 12-second advantage, followed by Jean-Paul Vella. He's currently in full saving mode as well here, because he now needs to try and push these duties to the end. In fact, this is the main concern here. It is David Nisman, who's pretty much on the bubble here to try and get that fuel to the end. And I think he's going to have to hand that first place, unfortunately, over to Denzel Agius.
Jonathan Spiteri and Potsy are both on fuel saving, while Jean-Paul Vella actually has got a little bit more fuel than everyone else around him, and that may offer him a slight advantage in comparison to the likes of Spiteri, who might have to go into an ultra-conservative fuel saving mode, but he has 12 seconds at his disposal, and we know that that time can immediately fall back if you're on a massive fuel save, because it happened at Suzuka only last week. So let's see what is going to happen. The checker flag will be waving in just 20 seconds time to conclude this race, as it's actually starting to get a little bit darker and the wind has changed as well, to go from a west side to down to a south side position. So it's a bit of a tailwind is going to be kicking in for people that are going across down towards turn number 7, so that could pose a little bit of a later risk. We'll have to see as the cars obviously get lighter and the tyres start to shred. Potsy has got enough tyres, that's almost for certain, but the checkered flag is out. Jonathan Spiteri wins this race here in Kyoto, and then it'll be followed with JP005. Jean-Paul Vella will get his first podium of the season, and Dave Potts, well done sir, you've got your redemption. Denzel Agius in the end finishing in a cracking P4. It will be Daniel Malia in 5th. Chris Sammer, the pole sitter, finishes in 6th overall, and what is turning in to a really poor season for the championship hopeful, the man who was winning the races last time out. It is only a P7 for the likes of Ayrton Birmingham. Towards the back, you have also got the likes of Chris of Orland, who was just doing so well, Clint Orland. And the end, he finishes in P10 in the end, with the Bono finishing in 9th place. It's a real topsy-turvy race. Kyoto usually brings the best and the worst out of the drivers, but what is turning into what we thought the favourite, Ayrton Birmingham, having an absolute shocker, and in the end Jonathan Spiteri bang on top once again. Great performance from the man who was in a tight battle last season out. He is on the top step of the podium. Let's take a look at those final results as and when they come in. Nonetheless, there it is, Jonathan Spiteri up 5 positions in the end, Adam, and finishes in a cracking P1.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit speechless. That race just became so unpredictable. And it wasn't until the final 5 minutes that, I don't know about you, Jink, but I kind of realised what was going on. I kind of realised this isn't the battle for the lead. This is Jonathan Spiteri's win to go with, because he somehow managed his strategy to absolute perfection. And this is not a podium I would have predicted. If you told me this would have been the podium off the qualifying, I would not have believed you. It is Jonathan Spiteri who wins ahead of Jean-Paul Vella. The 2 McLarens finishing 1 and 2. Potsy or David Mifsford will be home in P3, taking a podium to his name. Denzel Agius, the effort he was absolutely mountainous, but he only comes home in P4, followed by Daniel Malia, Christian Sammons, and Ayrton Birmingham. Then we find Osber Zverev there down in P6, and so you can always go back to find out 9th all the way down to 12th, but a fantastic effort there. In fact, we do have it there. Joel Valzon de Bono in the Nissan. P9 for him, with Clint Orland in the Ferrari. I think they just had too many issues. They did nothing in terms of managing, and this is what they get, 9th and 10th. And we find in P11 the Mercedes of Marlon Spiteri, and then we find the Honda NSX of Owen Kassar, I believe, or if I got that wrong, I'll correct it later. And then finally Centric or Etienne Grima down there in 13th, did not finish the race for him. That will round off our 13 drivers that finished this race.
James, we've had an absolute stonker of a race. Let's talk about it, because that, that definitely just turned on its head multiple times. I don't know about you, but there was so many different outcomes to this, and this was one that I did not expect.
No, and I think the reason why is because we were all expecting potentially a one-stop in this race, but I had a sneaking suspicion the two-stop was going to be the way to go, because it's one of those tracks where you've got so much shutter speed, because it's such a long circuit that the medium and the high-speed corners will shred the front tyres, and that is exactly what has happened. So in the end, it's for those that decided that they were going to commit to the two-stop quite early on, but not as early maybe as Denzel Hadjius, to end up taking the victory in anything. Spiteri knew that one straight away, and I think that's what ended up catching a lot of the usual suspects off guard. Eton Birmingham almost certainly caught completely off guard by that, and that is something that they're going to have to carry on to next week, Adam, because of course they're at the Spa de Francorchamps in a week's time, and that offers exactly the same kind of challenge, where you've got, you know, this really long straights, you've got the really long sweeping corners which will shred the front tyres, and I think a lot of people are going to take learnings from that going into next week's race.
Indeed, very, very similar characteristics in terms of the length. 7 kilometers is a pretty long distance, so fuel calculations and tire management is going to be a whole different story. You're looking at the circuit and just thinking there's so much prestige to this, and as I said, I think this is the circuit that could very much show us what we're in for. We'll go through Spa, we'll go through Le Saint Lacroix, and we'll find out what our championship is looking like going into the run-in for the final four. There you can see the standings, the calendar. Again, I think we'll have a little bit of a base on what our championship contenders look like. Then we'll head into the Red Bull Ring, the Deep Forest Raceway, and Nürburgring to cap off our European leg. We'll head into the mighty, absolutely stunning Daytona International Speedway. That is going to be a season finale and a half. I've never done a calendar where Daytona becomes the season finale, but I don't know about you, James, but boy, am I up for it. It's going to be an absolute master of a next couple of races, and you don't want to miss any of them here on the Velocity Esports Racing YouTube channel or Twitch, whatever you are watching this video on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Daytona usually brings some intense racing, and I'll be looking forward to being alongside you for that one, Adam, on the 11th of September, alongside the rest of you guys. But of course, we've got a lot of racing to occur. Until then, on the 31st of July, in just a week's time, we'll be taking a trip to Belgium for the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And in that interim, a lot of drivers have got to take a lot of learnings from that one, because, of course, tyre strategy was pretty much where it was at Kyoto, and with a similar sort of track layouts are expected in Belgium, they may have to consider more than just the one stop. What learnings are you going to take from this one? And we'll see you in just a week's time to see those learnings at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. From myself, James Otter, Adam Reed, and the rest of the team here at Velocity, it's a production brought to you by Hyundai, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand, Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. We will be back in just a week's time in Belgium. Take care. Bye-bye for now.